Hello again. Yes, same day, same sweatshirt. You're welcome, second hour. Um, we are going to do learning target zero point 0.6 uh, with this note-taking session. And learning target 0point 0.6 says, I can find the surface area of solids. Okay, now first of all, by saying the word solids, notice they didn't say polyhedron. So we're not just going to be doing prisms and pyramids. We will also be looking at the surface area of cones, cylinders, and spheres. I couldn't think of the third one. All right, surface area. Surface area is basically the area of the net. Okay, so it's not what's inside the solid. It's if you collapse the solid and you take the area of the net, that's the surface area. Okay, when you find out how much space is inside a solid, that's the volume, and that is learning target 0.7. All right, so for the beginning of this lesson, what I'm going to do is just give you the formulas, and then most of the lesson, what we're going to do is just practice the formulas. So you don't have to memorize these formulas, so take really good notes because you're going to want to use them on your homework and assessments. So prisms. When we find the surface area of a prism, surface area equals capital P times H. I know you don't know what any of that means, even though you might be guessing correctly, plus 2 times capital B. Okay, so let me tell you what these variables stand for. Capital P equals the perimeter, probably guessed that, but the perimeter of the base. Okay, so it's not just any perimeter. Let me grab one of these solids to show you, actually. I shouldn't have put these away. So if we were talking about prism, right? If we were talking about this triangular prism, right? Triangular prism, capital P would be the perimeter of the base. So first thing you have to know is which one's the base. Well, the base is what we have 2 of. It's the triangle. So very nice. So we would find the perimeter or the fencing around the base. That's capital P. Okay. Capital B is the area of the base. Okay, now H is height, you're right, but it's a specific type of height when we're talking about prisms for sure, and cylinders as well. Height, in this case, is the distance between the bases. Okay, so you want to be really careful on height. It's not what you're normally used to thinking of, but it makes sense, right? The height of this prism is how far apart are the triangles. Okay, that's all we need for this formula. So let's move on to a regular pyramid. So we are just going to find the surface area of pyramids with regular bases. So you remember the word regular means it has to be equilateral and equiangular. Okay, now we're not going to get crazy and use hexagons and things like that because you don't know how to find the area of a hexagon right now. It's pretty complicated. So a regular pyramid, the formula is 1/2. Okay, now remember we talked about that earlier. I don't like to use 1/2 because that messes you guys up. I'd rather divide by 2. So let's leave that off for a second. Capital P. Now, what does capital P mean? The perimeter of the base times L divided by 2, I'll tell you L in a minute, plus capital B, which is the area of the base. Okay? So L is the slant height. And the only time you need a slant height is when you have something that comes to a point, like a pyramid or a cone. Okay? So let's look at a rectangular pyramid. Okay, so the shape of the base is a rectangle, right? So we would find the perimeter of the rectangle for capital P times the slant height, which is this length, okay, times the slant height, divide that by 2, and then we would add on the area of the base. Okay? So that is an example of a regular pyramid. A cylinder, remember what a cylinder looks like now. Here's a cylinder. Okay, so a cylinder, the surface area is 2 times pi times the radius times the height plus 2 pi times the radius squared. So r is radius. We already know h. Okay? H is the distance between the bases. And then you'll be given the radius of the circle, circular bases. A cone, now a cone is similar to a pyramid in that it comes to a point. So we're going to need slant height here. So cone, the surface area equals pi times the radius times the slant height plus pi times the radius squared. Okay? And lastly, I do not have a visual on sphere, but you know what a sphere is. A sphere is a ball, right? So a sphere, the surface area equals 4 times pi times the radius squared. Now in a sphere, again, I don't have one, but in a sphere, the radius would be from the very middle of the ball to any edge. Okay? All right, so those are your formulas. Next, what we're going to do is just some examples. So I'm going to move these out of our way for right now. I printed out some examples. They are attached in Google Classroom so that you don't have to draw these solids. And we're just going to do some examples of each type. So again, I hope you print these out or at least make them bigger if you're taking notes on your own paper. It's going to be kind of hard to see with it this small, so I hope you have your own copy. So obviously, the most important thing to do here would be to make sure you know which shape you're finding the surface area. If you don't identify the shape properly, you're not going to use the right formula, right? So you got to make sure you can identify the shapes. So this first one, number 1, okay, we know it's not a cylinder or a cone or a sphere, right? So what we're deciding between is a prism or a pyramid, I hope. It doesn't come to a point, so it doesn't look like any pyramid I've ever seen. So it's a prism. So once you decide which category it's in, now you have to figure out which side is the base. Okay, so what's the shape of the base? Well, we have 2 triangles. That's the base. Okay, so next thing I want you to do on your homework or your notes or whatever is write down the formula. I don't want you looking back and forth. So it's capital P, perimeter of the base, times the height between the bases, distance, plus 2 times the area of the base. So when we find the perimeter of the base, that's the perimeter of this triangle, we need to know how far it is around this triangle. Well, we know this side is 8, this side is 6, and this side is 10 because we know this side is 10. Yes? So the perimeter of the base is 8 plus 6 plus 10. So I'm going to write that down. 8 plus 6 plus 10 equals 24 inches. Okay, find capital B next. Capital B is the area of the base. Well, the base is a triangle. So we're remembering back that the formula for the area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. Well, if this is base and this is height, or this is base and this is height, we know that's true because here's a right angle, so this is a right angle. So we would do 8 times 6 divided by 2. Being strong math students, we would cancel either the 2 with the 6 or the 2 with the 8. Either way, you get 24 square inches. Okay, so here's where we go back to our original formula. So then the surface area equals capital P, perimeter of the base, that's 24, times the height. Okay, remember, height is how far apart are the bases. So looking at your picture, how far apart are those triangles? I'm going to pause the video so you can tell me what you think is the distance between the 2 triangles. Okay, So if this is one of our bases, and on the back side we have a triangular base, then the bases are 3 inches apart. So that's going to be h for this formula. Okay, so it's easy to get confused. We have this h, which is the distance between the bases, but then we use this h to find the area of the triangle. So those are different numbers in this problem. So the perimeter of the base is 24 times h, which is the distance between the bases, plus 2 times capital B, which is the area of the base, which is 24. And so 24 times 3 is 72. 2 times 24 is 48. And when we add those up, we get 120, okay, surface area, square inches. Okay? All right, that's our first one. The triangular prisms are probably the hardest ones. All right, let's look at number 2. First thing, again, what you have to do is identify which solid we have. So I'm going to pause the video and have you identify if this is a prism, and if so, what type, pyramid, if so, what type, or cone, sphere, or cylinder. Okay, coming back, this is a prism, right? Because it doesn't come to a point. It doesn't have any rounded faces or non-polygon faces. So this is a rectangular prism. So we're going to use the same formula that we used for the last prism, but this time the base is not a triangle, so it's going to make things a little different. This time the base is a rectangle. So we need to find the perimeter of our rectangle and the area of our rectangular base. So you might be asking yourself, well, how in the world do I know which rectangle to choose? There are 3 different rectangles in that picture. And my answer is, I know people don't like this answer, it doesn't matter. Just pick one. So if you want to pick this rectangle that's 3 by 2, pick that one. If you want to pick this one that's 7 by 2, pick that one. If you want to pick the one that's 3 by 7, pick that one. I'm not great visually, so I'm going to pick the one right up front. One that I can see first is the one I'm going to choose. And I'm going to highlight it so I don't get confused, because it's easy to get confused. So please highlight or use your pencil, whatever. This is the rectangle I'm using for my base. So what is the perimeter of this rectangle? I'm going to pause the video for you to find the perimeter of that rectangle. Okay, so the perimeter of the base I chose is 3 plus 2 plus 3 plus 2, right? And so that would be 10 miles. Now I'm going to pause the video and ask you to find the area of the blue highlighted rectangle, the base I chose. Okay, so we're back. Area of a rectangle is base times height. That is the 3 and the 2. We don't know which one is which. It doesn't matter. 3 times 2 equals 6 square miles. Now we go back to our original formula. Surface area equals the perimeter of the base, which we said was 10, times h, which is how far apart are the bases. So I'm going to pause the video and you tell me how far apart are my 2 bases. Okay, so the bases, if these are my bases, then they are 7 miles apart. So 10 times 7 plus 2 times the area of the base, which is 6. So that's 70 plus 12 is 82 square miles. Okay, so those are examples of 2 prisms. I'm not going to do another prism right now. That's plenty of those. Let's go to number 4. So on your notes page, number 4, I want you to identify, I'm going to pause, identify what kind of solid this is. Okay, so coming back, this has non-polygon bases and it is a cone. So I'm going to look on my handy-dandy formula sheet and I'm going to write down that formula. Surface area equals pi times the radius times the slant height plus pi times the radius squared. Okay, now this one's a little tricky because it doesn't give you the radius, it gives you the diameter, but we had some practice with that, right? So if the diameter is 18 feet, then the radius must be 9 feet. Okay, so now I'm going to plug into this formula. Surface area equals pi times the radius times the slant height. Now the slant height is this number, so times 20.1, plus pi times the radius, which again is 9, squared. Now just like when we did circles in Learning Target 0.3, we're going to leave pi in our answer. We're going to have exact values. So this is going to make it easier for you, I promise. So just leave the pi and do 9 times 20.1. So 9 times 20.1, that's 180.9. 180.9 pi plus, what's 9 squared? Well, it's not 18, I can tell you that. It's 81 pi. And then we are just going to add these two numbers together, just collecting like terms. So 180.9 plus 81 is 261.9 pi. Don't forget your pi, not pi squared, pi. And the units, square feet. Okay? Moving on, let's do number 6. I'm going to pause the video and ask you, what type of solid would we call number 6? Okay, coming back, it has non-polygon faces, so it is not a prism or a pyramid. This one is actually a cylinder. So I look at my formula sheet, because I've got a really nice geometry teacher, and she's not making me memorize those. 2 times pi times the radius times the height. Remember, the height is the distance between the bases, plus 2 pi r squared, radius squared. Okay, so looking at this picture, 2 times pi times the radius, which in this case is 5 meters, times the height. So what you're asking yourself with height is how far apart are the circular bases, and they are 8 meters apart, plus 2 times pi times the radius, which we said was 5, squared. So here again, ignore the pi. 2 times 5 times 8 is 80 pi. Ignore it, but don't forget about it. You have to include it. 5 squared is 25. You have to do the squared first because of order of operation. So 25 times 2 is 50 pi. Don't forget about your pi. And then you add the 80 and the 50 together to get 130 pi, not pi squared, square meters. Okay, so we've done 2 prisms, 1 cone, 1 cylinder, so we probably need to find a pyramid or a sphere, or maybe I'll trick you and pick neither of those. All right, let's look at, let's not do that one yet. Maybe we'll come back to that one. Let's look at number 18. And everybody, I'm going to pause. I want you to identify this solid. Okay. Now this is traditionally what people picture when they think pyramid, right? It comes to a point, the faces are all polygons, so it's definitely a pyramid. So we're going to write down our formula for the surface area of a regular pyramid, and it is as follows. Capital P, perimeter of the base, times the slant height divided by 2, plus capital B, which is the area of the base. So the next thing you need to do is identify the base. So look at this picture in number 18, and I'm going to pause and you tell me what shape the base of this pyramid is. Okay, so since it's a regular pyramid, we know the base is a square, but remember I told you we're just going to use the word rectangular. So this is a rectangular pyramid. Squares are also rectangular, so we're not breaking any big laws there. No math laws are being broken. So the base is this rectangle / square. Okay? So first thing I want you to do is find the perimeter and the area of this base. So I want you to find capital P and capital B for this base. This base is a rectangle that is 7 by 7, so it's a square. So I'm going to pause. You find the perimeter of the base, perimeter of the blue, and the area of the base, area of the blue. Okay, so the perimeter, remember, is a fence around this square slash rectangle. So that's 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7, or 7 times 4. Oops, let's make that a plus sign. Equals 28 miles. The base, or the area of the base, capital B, is 7 times 7, or 7 squared, 49 square miles. So once I have those two things, now I can find the surface area, capital P, perimeter of the base, 28, times the slant height, which is labeled here, 7.8, divided by 2, plus the area of the base, which we said was 49. Okay, so I don't know what I did with my calculator, so I'm going to use my phone, which, reminder, you cannot use a phone on an assessment. So I'm going to type in here 28 times 7.8 divided by 2 equals, and that's 109.2 plus 49. I'm going to add 49, which I could do in my head and probably should, and that equals 158.2 square miles. Remember, area is always in square units, and this is surface area. Okay, let's do at least one more. I'm going to show you a bunch of pictures here that I have not drawn on yet. I'm going to pause this and ask you which of these problems is a sphere. All right, coming back, so number 11 is a cone, number 12 is a sphere, if you got that. Number 13 is a triangular pyramid, 14 is a rectangular prism, 15 is a rectangular prism, 16 is a cone, and 17 is a cylinder. So we're going to find the surface area of this sphere. Okay, so the formula for surface area of a sphere is 4 times pi times the radius squared. Okay, so again, this time they didn't give us the radius, they gave us the diameter. So I'm going to pause this and ask you, if the diameter is 16 yards, what would the radius of the sphere be? Okay, so if the diameter is 16 yards, the radius is half that length, or divide it by 2, or 8 yards. And then we plug in, and we do 4 times pi times the radius squared. Again, you need to square before you multiply by 4, and don't touch the pi. Leave the pi. I think I finally have you convinced that it's just easier to leave the pie, right? Unless it's actual, like, cherry pie, then you should definitely eat it. 8 squared is 64. 64 times 4 is 256 pi, and that would be square yards. All right, I want to do one more. We have not yet done a triangular pyramid. Triangular pyramid. So look at this sheet. I'm just going to give you 6 of them this time. And identify for me which one of these is a triangular pyramid. All right, number 25 is the only one that really looks like a pyramid. I mean, this one kind of, but that's a cone, so it's not a pyramid. But as far as the pointed top with the polygon faces, it's got to be number 25. And so for a pyramid, let's write down the formula. Surface area equals, where'd it go? Perimeter of the base times the slant height divided by 2 plus the area of the base. I want you to write the formula down every single time. So the first thing I need you to do is identify the base. What do we have one of? They're all triangles, right? But which one is the base? I'm going to pause while you highlight that or outline it on your paper. Okay, so this one, it's not because it's on the bottom. You know, we could draw that. We could flip this over and now it's on the top. Okay, it's what we have one of. We have one of this triangle. And so we are going to find capital P, perimeter of that base, and capital B, the area of that base. So I'm going to pause and let you try both of those right now. I want the perimeter of the blue triangle, and I want the area of the blue triangle. Okay, perimeter, this is a regular, remember we said all the pyramids we are doing will be regular, so the bases will all have the same side lengths. So the perimeter of this base is 6 plus 6 plus 6 equals 18 centimeters. The area of this base is a little trickier because remember this is a triangle, so the area is base times height divided by 2. The height of this blue triangle is 5.2. The base of this blue triangle is 6. So 6 times 5.2 divided by 2. Again, strong math student, I cancel the 2 and the 6. And then I type in my calculator. I probably wouldn't because I'm trying to develop good mental math skills. I would do 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 0.2 is 0.6. And so I would write down 15.6. Now, if you weren't sure, you should type it in your calculator just to double check yourself. Now that I have capital P and capital B, I go back to my original formula. Capital P is 18, the perimeter of the base, times the slant height. So I go back to my picture. What is the slant height of this triangular pyramid? So slant height, remember, slant height is this length, okay? So the slant height of this pyramid is 11.1. We want to divide that by 2, and we want to add capital B, which is 15.6. Now, for me, even I don't want to do this much mental math, but I would cancel these two because I'm a strong math student. 2 and 18 make 9 when you cancel. So I do 9 times 11.1, which I would normally do in my head. But since I have to add 15.6 to it right away, I don't want to pull any muscles up here, so I'm going to take it easy. 115.5 is what I get when I do all of this math, square centimeters. Okay, so I did an example. We did examples of every single type you will see today. So there's going to be 2 types of prisms, 2 types of pyramids, and then we have cylinders, cones, and spheres. So I'm going to pause right now, and probably you need about 20 minutes to write everything that you're a little confused about because I know this isn't super easy. But just let me know real quickly here what your gut feeling is. I know you're a little overwhelmed, but you're going to have formulas. And do you think if you have those formulas and you know what everything stands for, and you highlight the bases and get some good practice, do you think you will be able to power through this? I'm going to give you a second to just let me know. Okay, well, I hope everybody's doing okay with this. You don't know me well yet, you will soon though. But I'm not going to leave you hanging. If you're struggling, we will spend more time on it. So I just need you to give it an actual solid attempt. You know, like how you have real efforts and then there's the pretend effort. I need your real effort on this. So I am going to let you go. I'm going to post in Google Classroom so you can print out these pages so you don't have to draw these pictures. You have the formulas in your notes, but I might also type those out in there as well. And then you'll have an assignment in there that I need you to work on additionally. And I will post an answer key where I will go through all of the logic, which some of you will be like, oh my gosh, stop talking, lady. But no, when you meet me, you'll know I don't stop talking. So anyway, have a good day. Go green. And I will see you for Learning Target 0.7.